Well, hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this special event, the world television premiere of Heart's Delight, the story of William H. Miner. I'm Bill McColgan of Mountain Lake PBS alongside Jen Kowalczyk, and we are so proud to be bringing you this very important and sometimes underappreciated story of the North Country.
Well, I grew up in the Plattsburgh area, and so the Miner name is, I mean, it's iconic, it's legendary, and I'm thrilled right now to be able to watch this documentary. This is the first time I'm actually watching it right now too, so we're thrilled to bring it to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you're enjoying the program so far.
Our mission is to inspire and enrich our people and our communities with this kind of meaningful storytelling, education, and community engagement. And isn't that a mission that William H. Miner himself could really get behind? We're very proud to be joined in the studio this evening by our volunteers from the William H. Miner Institute, a true gem of the North Country, sitting right on Heart's Delight Farm.
We're thrilled to have them, and this kind of night wouldn't be possible without a lot of volunteers, and you'll see we'll have interviews with lots of generous community members that have come in to join us tonight. So stay tuned, you don't want to miss anything. But really, we're here tonight to just take a quick break to remind you that Mountain Lake PBS and PBS would not be possible without your support. So right now is a perfect time if you haven't made a donation in a while, maybe you need to renew your membership, or if you'd like to become a member because you know that you appreciate local storytelling like Heart's Delight on your television dial, now's the time to call the number on your screen.
And we have some wonderful options for gifts for people who may want to call in.
We do. We have some great options for people to call in, and let's take a look at them now.
William H. Miner enriched his community by providing funding for crucial projects. Right now, you have the chance to enrich our community as well by becoming a supporter of Mountain Lake PBS and helping us carry on our mission of providing the best educational, informative, and entertaining television available today. When you become a supporter of Mountain Lake PBS, we have some great ways that we'd like to thank you. For a contribution of $75, we'll be happy to thank you with the DVD of the film you're enjoying right now, Heart's Delight, the story of William H. Miner. This double-sided DVD contains the entire 86-minute film, plus the making of Heart's Delight, and over 1 hour of archival films from the 1920s on Shazy Rural School and the Heart's Delight Farm. When you support Mountain Lake PBS with a contribution of $84, we'll thank you with a DVD of Heart's Delight and a bonus DVD, A Place Out of Time, the Altona Flat Rock. This 30-minute documentary was produced by Paul Frederick 25 years ago about the unique geological history and ecosystem that exists at the site of William H. Miner's $1 Million Dam. For your generous contribution of $150, we'll thank you with both DVDs and Dr. Joseph Burke's book, William H. Miner, The Man and the Myth. The book traces the life of the businessman, philanthropist, and visionary of the late 19th and early 20th centuries who proved the American mobility myth true, that success depends not on who you were, but on what you could do. Take a few minutes right now to support the station that brings you the proud history of the North Country and preserves this legacy for future generations. Call the number on your screen or visit mountainlake.org right now. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Tom Halleck with Mountain Lake PBS, and we are so pleased to have Paul Frederick here with us tonight, the producer, the writer of this wonderful documentary.
Thank you, Tom. Great to be here.
And Paul may be a familiar face to many of you. Spent many years here at Mountain Lake PBS as a videographer and producer and documentary producer with Derek Bearden out on the road shooting many, many episodes of Roadside Recipes and also People Near Here. So it's always wonderful to have you back.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here. It's like coming home.
And this is just a wonderful documentary. How many years did you spend working on this?
It was about, well, in 2003, I did a project with the Miner Institute on a 100-year on the farm. We did some video production there, and I realized I had all this great visuals to work with, all these old photos, and I thought we really need to do a full documentary on William's life. So technically from 2003, but it was about 2012 or 13 when I started actually shooting and getting the whole thing
so
going.
You've spent the
about
last
3 years.
3 to 4 years
Yep.
working on this project. William Miner is a name. Anyone that grew up in the North Country, as Jen said, they've heard the Miner name. They're aware of the hospital, the Miner Institute. But many may not know the man behind the legend, and that's really what you tell in this story.
Yeah, we really felt like that huge chunks of his life was missing, and you know, a lot of people knew some of the myths that they've heard about him over the years and little snippets here and there, but we wanted to show him as a real flesh and blood person. We do get into some of his shortcomings, some of his faults. I mean, you'll see in the show, he's definitely a control freak. He wanted to control everything and didn't take no for an answer sometimes, as we'll see soon. And but also, I think probably the most amazing philanthropist our region has ever seen.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's certainly the case. He was orphaned at age 10, came to live with his aunt and uncle in Shazy, New York, grew up on a farm and learned how to farm. Then at 18, as we saw, he headed out west, went to college, became an engineer, and really started from the ground up working in the railroad industry.
Yeah, it was some family connections he had where his brother-in-law said, hey, come on out, I'll give you a good job out here. As we mentioned in the show, he had two options: to go work in the factories, in the mills here in the east, or go out west and work in the rail industry. And it was that connection he had with his brother-in-law, John Mitchell, who stepped up in some very key points in his life that really gave him a leg up and a chance to really make his name.
Gave him a boost. He was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth,
No,
though.
not
He
by
worked
any
his
stretch.
way up through over a number of years in the railroad industry to get where he was.
Yes, and you know, you can't just fake that. You know, you have to have some skills, and he definitely was an incredible salesman. From all the letters and things we've seen, that someone said that he could really sell ice to an Eskimo. I mean, he could sell. He was a pretty good manager, although he found out at that job at Lima that probably that's not his best forte. He was better at designing and at doing the blueprints and being an engineer.
He had trouble managing the workers.
Yeah, he had some trouble managing the workers, but he was young. He was, you know, early 20s, and he's managing this whole factory full of much seasoned, older and rougher people. So I think he learned that that's not really where he wanted to.
As you mentioned, he was a smart engineer, though, and he came up with the draft gear, and that's what he got the patent for that. And I know that that's always been a controversial issue and a point of contention, but he basically learned the railroad industry. He saw what was happening to the rail cars, especially the refrigerated rail cars carrying the fruit from California to the East Coast, and he came up with a way to come up with a shock absorber for the rail cars.
Well, it's interesting because I think that's part of the myth, is that everyone thinks, you know, as Joe says in the show, there was a light bulb moment where, oh, I know how to do that. But really, there was draft gears were already out there. He made a better mousetrap. You know, he made it better than everyone else was making it. He made it with better materials. He did testing and just. So in a way, he perfected what was out there.
Exactly, he made it.
More
he
so
made it
than
better, and
coming up with
therefore,
the very first one.
and that was the beginning of where he made his fortune. Although he did have a number of inventions, most of them in the railroad industry.
Yeah, he had, I think, 80 or 90 other patents. So it's not like it was a flash in the pan. Here's this one thing. A lot of them were simple things like pins and door hinges. Some big brake for the back of the cars, you know, those big wheels that throw on the brakes, that kind of thing. But up to 80 different patents, so he was...
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And he was an amazing guy, and then he brought all of that back here to the North Country, as we'll find out in the next hour or so in the documentary. So we will look forward to that. Paul, we're going to be happy to have you here with us all evening. And for now, though, let's send it back over to Bill and Jen.
Thanks a lot, Tom. And you know, this is such a wonderful story. I'm a newcomer to the area. I'm a transplant. You're a North Country native. But we are surrounded by these wonderful stories of our region. And it's a proud moment for us to be able to showcase these stories.
And all year round, you know, part of the reason that we're here in this community is to tell local stories, to take local stories like the William H. Miner story, Heart's Delight, to take local stories that we showcase every week on Mountain Lake Journal and online all the time. That's part of the reason that we're here, and we can't do it without your support. It is so important that we hear from you right now. We're thrilled to hear the phones ringing already. already. So call the number on your screen and please make your donation in support of local public television.
And thanks again to our friends from the Minor Institute who are helping out all evening. And one of the major driving forces behind the Minor Institute over the years has been Dr. Joseph Burke, former SUNY Plattsburgh president, former provost and chancellor of the SUNY system, and really the man who made sure to take the first steps to making sure that this story of William H. Minor was known to the general public. And our own Paul Larson is standing by right now with Dr. Burke.
Thanks, Bill. Yes, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Joseph Burke to our Mountain Lake PBS studios. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
I'm delighted to be here.
And you've written this beautiful book, William H. Minor, The Man and the Myth. What is it like for you to see this documentary that we're airing tonight that takes your concepts that you wrote about and brings them to life with illustrations and old photographs and recreated footage? What is that like?
Well, you know, William Minor would particularly be proud because he developed films himself to sell his gear. So he was interested in film as well. So he'd be delighted to be on film. Writing was one thing, but film was better.
And having participated in this documentary yourself as an interviewee and as someone who inspired the writing of it, what's your opinion of the finished product?
Oh, it's, when Paul showed me an advanced copy of this, my wife Joan and I just raved. It's one thing, it takes words from a page in a book, but brings in light and sight and the whole thing that adds, and it's a marvelous film.
It really brings the whole story to life,
Yes,
doesn't it?
Yes.
Now, what gave you the initial idea to want to write a book about William H. Minor?
When I became involved with the Minor Institute, there was much written about the Minor Institute in later times and so forth. And I'm a historian, was trained as a historian, and I wanted to find out the man who started it all, William Minor. So it was a search for him.
What episode in Minor's life do you relate to the most?
Oh, my. I think it was when he was at the car works and really failed to manage and was in effect sort of fired, and he quit. He picked himself up and went out and became more involved in selling and also in inventing. That's when he invented the gear.
And tonight we're inventing new ways to tell the North Country stories. What do you think William H. Minor would have thought of being honored this way with an evening devoted to him on public television?
He would be delighted. He was a promoter and a salesman. There are all sorts of films that he had done with guests coming to Hearts of Light Cottage, in the woods, explaining his gear. So he was a media man.
Well, you've been quite the community member yourself, having served as the president of SUNY Plattsburgh for 12 years. How important is it to you to see this show that celebrates the educational aspect of William H. Minor and how important the community schools were to improve the lives of people in rural areas?
It should say to people of the North Country what a great place it is. William Minor could have lived any place in the country, in Chicago, but he lived here. And he wanted to, this was a period of time when the North Country had no pride in itself. And he helped to bring pride to the North Country.
And we also aim to bring pride to this area at Mountain Lake PBS with telling the region's stories. Why do you think it's important for yourself and for people out there to support our efforts tonight to tell regional stories?
It's time that the people of the North Country support the story of the North Country. And that's what this public station does, and this film in particular. So people live here sometimes and really don't appreciate how great it is. William Miner could have lived anywhere, but he lived here.
Yes, he graced us with his presence here. We're so grateful for that. I'm curious about the subtitle of your book, The Man and the Myth.
Yes.
Are there any myths you'd like to dispel about William H. Miner?
The hardest thing is for a leader, in some ways, what is the real leader and what is kind of the myth. And with William Miner, he just created many, many myths. Part of which, like any good leader, he was a myth maker about himself. But also, he took on things and dreamed what others hadn't dreamed about, like building a 15,000-acre farm and bringing the latest agricultural advances to the North Country. So he thought this was a wonderful place, and there's where he decided to put his farm.
Well, this is a very inspirational story. Just watching this documentary is very inspiring to see what one person can do in a community such as this. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of this documentary, but first we're going to go back to Bill and Jen, and I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
And our thanks to Dr. Burke for being here as well. We really appreciate it. And in the spirit of William H. Miner as a promoter, we are here to remind you how important it is that you support Mountain Lake PBS right now. Dr. Burke's book is available to people who call in with a donation tonight, William H. Miner, The Man and the Myth. So give us a shout, pick up the book. It makes a wonderful gift, or you also have the option to pick up the DVD of Heart's Delight, the program that you're seeing tonight. Or of course, you also have that option for Heart's Delight and A Place Out of Time, the Altona Flat Rock. So some wonderful gifts. It is so important that we hear from you right now. Give us a call at the number on your screen, or you can make a donation online at mountainlake.org too.
And this is a quintessential North Country story, but it's also a story of perseverance that is universal in its theme. And Tom is still standing by with Paul Frederick, the filmmaker, and this is a remarkable piece of work. We're so proud that you could join us to watch it. Tom?
Thanks, Bill. And we are so happy to have Dr. Burke here with us tonight and talk about a wealth of knowledge. When you're going to produce a documentary, you need to find somebody who knows your subject inside and out, and you found him.
Absolutely. Joe's just been instrumental in that book is about 600 pages. The finished script for this whole hour-and-a-half documentary is about 50 pages. So that tells you how much more there is even than what's in the show about William's life to read and learn about.
It's one of those stories that has so many layers, so many angles. It's probably tough, even in a 90-minute documentary, to fit it all in.
It really was. Originally, this was going to be an hour show, and then the rough cut came in at about an hour and 40 minutes, and I went, oh boy, how am I going to cut a third of this and still have it be relevant at all? And so I called Paul King here at the station.
And that's the great thing about public television.
Public
You
television.
don't have to fit in that hour like commercial television, and if it's longer,
Absolutely.
you can tell the story. And is that one of the reasons that you're happy to see it on public television?
Yeah, for several things. I mean, I got my start here at this station, and to see it air here, and that A Place Out of Time documentary 25 years ago, I think that was my first documentary I ever did. So there's the first one. This is like the most recent one, and to have it then show here, it's just like a culmination of my last 30 years.
And that was the very first documentary you produced, as you mentioned.
Yes.
That is part of the package deal here tonight. You will get that documentary along with Dr. Burke's novel and along with the documentary that you're watching here tonight. So what a package that is. You look back at that documentary that you made 20 years ago. Had it been a few years since you had watched it?
I haven't even seen it since probably 20 years from now, and I haven't seen it recently. But that actually started the seed of this whole, on the Altona Flat Rock, in the segment coming up, you're going to see he built this very large power dam, hydro dam up there. And it was on the Altona Flat Rock, and I did the documentary on that land. And Miner's a small part of that story, but it's definitely where the seeds for this program were sown.
As we saw in part one, he headed out west and made his millions. He really, in all likelihood, didn't have any intention of returning to the North Country. And then, as we're going to see in part two now, there was a turn of events that most likely is what brought him and his new bride back here to the North
Yeah,
Country.
yeah, and I certainly don't want to spoil it for what's coming up, but there's a major event in their life that sort of made him want to come back to his youth.
It is sad, but as we're going to see, it's what led to him coming back
Yep.
here and everything that is there today. So we will look forward to that.
Yep.
It is coming up right now. We're going to return to Heart's Delight, the story of William H. Miner on Mountain Lake PBS.